Hi there and welcome to the latest episode of One Patriots Place Live, brought to you by e2gsports.com. With you today is Steve Balistreri, Thomas Murphy, myself, Claire Cooper, and we welcome in superstar beat reporter for Pat's Pulpit, co-host of Patriots Nation podcast. It is the darling Ryan Spagnoli. Spags, welcome to One Patriots Place Live. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thanks again for the warm welcome. It's always a pleasure to talk with you three. So thanks for having me again.
No, man, it's our pleasure. It's our pleasure. God, Claire, do you stay up at night thinking these up, or do they just pop into your head as time goes? Claire is on a mission, people, to be the most popular person on the planet with any guest. And it really showed. Jesus, Mary and Joseph. I walk into the studio and it's like, oh, hi, Murph. But you know, that here we go.
That's better than the welcome I got when I came home.
Oh, let's hear that one.
Oh, that's not bad.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
I put us both into the stream. We were offline there, and the first thing she said to me, "Don't put me on. I have to go use the bathroom."
I have to run to the loo. I have to run to the loo. But we're a football show, and specifically a Patriots show. And thanks so much for coming, man. You know, every time I reach out, you always get right back to me and say, hell yes. And I love that, man. I really do. And we all know that it's just so, you know, people can come in here and get introduced by Claire. But tell me, bud, we're right up against it. It's Thursday. Am I throwing a TV out of my window on Thursday evening when Bill trades back?
You know, I don't know. I think that trade yesterday, you know, everybody looks into it, right? It's what, a fifth for a sixth and a seventh.
Yep.
I think Doug Kyed had noted they've only made 3 fifth-round picks since 2010 or something. So shows the value that they you know, foresee with that round. They have 3 6th-round picks, so now you have the ammo to kind of move up maybe to the early fifth or even the late fourth if you can, you know, kind of play with some capital. I've been leaning kind of towards trading back just because of the gap, and I think there's not a lot of difference between, you know, say the 15th ranked player and the 80th ranked player, whether, you know, whatever position you value more. I think with a team that's close but also needs, you know, some depth and some more, you know, skill and playmaking ability on both sides of the ball and at multiple key spots, a trade back would make the most sense, I think. But as we get closer, you know, I think it's just the value, right? Like I think they have, you know, say they have 6 or 7 first-round grades on their board. I think if you're a Patriots fan, you're going to want to see a lot of quarterbacks go within the top 20, right? It's a unique year where there's not a clear-cut QB1. You don't really know how other teams are valuing these guys, whether it be Malik Willis, Kenny Pickett, Matt Corral, guys like that. If they can get into that top 15, top even 18 and get some suitors to kind of trade up, that's going to allow some really good players to fall down the board and kind of be in striking distance for the Patriots.
Yeah, yesterday when the trade was announced, I said that, you know, this is where Bill is going to grab his normally undrafted free agents because he just doesn't want to screw around this year. Do you agree with that at all?
With the 6th-round, the 3-6? Yeah, I mean, it's potential, right? Like a guy like Slade Bolden, I think makes almost too much sense. I can't remember the only time I guess I can remember where you kind of deemed a late round kind of / UDFA as a member of the Patriot before the draft was Braxton Berrios, who was obviously here for a year, then beat out by Gunner, and he's carved out a nice career for himself in New York. So that's a guy that comes to mind. There's certainly some cornerbacks that they've hit on in the past that would make a lot of sense. But that does make a lot of sense too. And like I said earlier, you know, now they have the ammunition to kind of move up kind of on day 3, kind of whichever way they want to go if they feel prospects are falling down. But yeah, I'd like to see them pick at 21 because it brings a lot more excitement to the first day. It almost seems like a lot of the work you did kind of paid off. But if they did trade out, I look at like a Kyle Duggar trade that they made with the Chargers a few years ago where they traded 23 for 37 and 71, which ultimately led them to Duggar and Uche. So If you can come away with a package like that, you're going to see some really good value and a good player fall into even early on day 2.
Cool.
Spags, I've asked everybody, and we are right up to the draft. And Murph's laughing because he knows exactly what I'm going to ask. But I've asked everybody because I love this question. Not necessarily for the Patriots, just who in this draft are you drawn to? Who has caught your eye? Ryan Spagnoli, who is your draft crush?
Jameson on offense, Jameson Williams. Unfortunately,
Okay.
I don't think he's going to be available at 20. I think he has a chance to go inside the top 10. I mean, you're talking about a player that I thought was a surefire top 8 pick before the ACL. He's squatting, he's running. Obviously, he didn't get the buzz the last few months because he wasn't able to test, but that's a guy that, ACL injuries, guys overcome now, right? John Mechie tore his 2 weeks before, and he hasn't seen any, sort of dip in his stock. So Jameson Williams, I think that's a long shot for them, but somebody that I think is in striking distance for them at 21, and even if they were to move back, is Daxton Hill out of Michigan. This is a safety who's played some slot corner, some box safety. I think he can, play outside if they needed him to. You've seen kind of the moves that they've made this offseason, whether it be Jabril Peppers, Mac Wilson, getting John Jones, Miles Bryant, all these guys back. They're kind of, I feel as if they're not going to play man as much. I don't know if they value those long press man corners that we've seen on the outside for so long, and now they're kind of going to go with, positionless defense. And I think Daxton Hill makes a lot of sense because of his athletic ability, his ability to play multiple spots. So if there's a guy in round 1 that I think is reasonable and has a chance to be there for them, Daxton Hill is my number 1 guy.
Oh, okay. It doesn't have to be reasonable, actually, in all fairness.
Yeah.
You draft
Jameson Williams.
but that's a good one. No,
Yeah.
That's fine. That's fine. You can justify it's fine. But it is, it's necessary. It's just, you mentioned just John Mechie that you don't think that his injury has affected his draft stock. I'm really interested as to why you say that, because I know that other people have sort of said it might make him drop. So kind of, I'm curious as to what's made you think that it hasn't really affected it.
I don't think it's necessarily injury that's made him drop on some people's boards. I think it's more so I think he's a little limited in terms of a receiver. He might be a little bit of a jag. And then you see some of these other guys that had tested really well that have seen their stock dip. I thought Mechie would be a late 2, early 3 anyways, and I think that's seemingly kind of where you'll see him go, maybe the late 60s. In the latest, maybe 90. I think that's a great spot for Mechie, and I think that's a player that they'll target on day 2. That's another guy, obviously an Alabama guy, has the connection with Mac Jones. That would make a lot of sense for them at the specific spot. Like I said, if they were to trade back and kind of pick up 3 picks inside between 50 and 127, you could see Mechie go somewhere around there.
Oh, interesting. I like that. Thanks. Steve, you could.
Hey, if you're looking at the Patriots going defense in the first round, even if they do, like a lot of mocks have them sliding back to like 29 and trade with the Chiefs, which is entirely possible.
Yeah.
Is there anybody on defense that really stands out to you that would be available probably in that spot? I know the board is going to be fluctuating, and like you said, the best thing that the Patriots could wish for is for a bunch of quarterbacks to get taken early.
Yeah, like I said, Daxton Hill, I think that's the number 1 guy on the defensive side of the ball. Somebody like a Andrew Booth Jr., Kyer Elam, even a Kyler Gordon, someone like that on the corner. I know Booth and Elam kind of bring that press man ability. Gordon's one of the freaks of this draft. He's an athletic freak, kind of can play positionless. Also, Devontae Wyatt out of Georgia. You've seen him kind of go anywhere between 15 to the early 2nd round. There's kind of those in between prospects that you just don't know how high teams are on their board. Like, you saw Clelin Ferrell go 4th overall last year when people were mocking him to the Patriots. There's always those prospects that you feel, they'll definitely be here at this spot. And then they don't go till late round 2 or they go in the top 15. So those kind of 4 guys. And I think the linebacker, you have Devin Lloyd and Nakobe Dean that I think are surefire top 20 picks. And then after that, I think the best linebackers in this class you'll see on day 2, whether it be Christian Harris, Brandon Smith, Chad Muma, Troy Anderson, Darian Beavers, someone like that I think fits their need. I think if they're going to go linebacker, they wait till that day too.
Well, there goes my next 6 questions.
I've got one that follows up from that in regards to linebacker, in all fairness, because there's a lot of controversy on this show about top linebackers. We've got Murph, obviously, with his Nakobe Dean man crush, and Steve really not seeing it. So where do you fall on the linebacker line? Obviously, you mentioned that you think they should take them in the second round. Who's kind of your linebacker pick for the Patriots?
I think it's Christian Harris for me, an Alabama guy. I think he's one of the best cover linebackers. A little raw. I think he was thrown in kind of early in his career at Alabama and really progressed. Tested extremely well, met with the Patriots. Has a lot of the tools that they look for. I know they were asked – Matt Groh was asked about this in his press conference in terms of, how do they change kind of their outlook on a certain position where they typically only targeted linebackers that were 6'3 plus, 230 pounds plus. And, he did say that they really don't make those type of guys anymore because they just have to pick from what the colleges give them. When you look at Harris, a little undersized, 6'2", 226, I think that's as close as you can get to kind of that mold that they look for, while also portraying a lot of the modern day skills that you need for the linebacker. As for Nakobe Dean, I think it makes a lot of sense for them. I just don't know how much they'll value a player like that when I don't know if there's much of a difference between him and Kyle Duggar. I think they'll end up playing a similar role in the pro game. Devin Lloyd would be the pick, but I think I don't know if he'll be available at 21, unfortunately.
Steve doesn't look it, but he's dancing on the inside because every time somebody,
great prospect. Like I said, if they did pick him, it would make a lot of sense because of a lot of the moves that they've made this offseason, but I think they have a few of those guys on the roster, if that makes sense.
Told you, Murph.
Yeah. Told you, Murph. Any chance that Bill breaks with tradition and actually goes with the Penn State guy?
I know. They have some pretty interesting prospects with Jaquan Brisker, the safety, Jahan Dotson, who brings kind of that yak ability. Brandon Smith's a big physical linebacker that kind of drips with a lot of athleticism. I don't know. I know they were at their pro day. I think they typically go to those just because it's a Big Ten school. Those are 3 guys that would make sense. Just depends on how much, they value that school in that position. I know he hasn't picked anybody from Penn State, right? Or maybe 1 or 2.
Ever. Yeah.
Ever. Yeah. So there you go.
No matter who falls there in the lap, and he just seems to, turn his head. I'm not sure what he has. I know what I have against Penn State, but I don't know what he has against Penn State. And it really gets to be a tad bit aggravating to watch some of these guys come off the board, because there's also a wide receiver that I think, might fit in really well here too. What do you think about that?
Jahan Dotson?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that he makes a lot of sense. Slot guy who can – I think he has some of the best hands in the class. I think he dropped two passes all of college. Somebody that can really stretch the field. I think they could use him in a variety of ways. That was somebody that, early on in the draft process was deemed as kind of that late first-round pick. I think he slid a little bit because of some of these defensive guys and quarterbacks getting a little bit of late buzz. That's a guy on early day 2, 50s, if he's there, would certainly make a lot of sense. I think they do need to address the wide receiver position. I don't know at 21 if there'll be a ton of value. I think if someone like an Olave or Jamison Williams or Garrett Wilson were available, it'd really be tough to pass on a talent like that. But unfortunately, I don't see that happening. But I think there's some good day 2 guys that would make a lot of sense. Sky Moore, Christian Watson, Jahan Dotson,
Pickens,
George Pickens. Yeah, a little bit of off the field stuff. So you can kind of look at that, either way. Does Bill value a player like that? Is that going to fall? You're getting a really good talent and kind of get him into your building. So, yeah, I think that the wide receivers, this is just going to continue. Wan'Dale Robinson, another guy that would make sense in kind of a Deebo Samuel role. I think the wide receivers, they grow on trees now. There's so many elite just because of the passing camps and 7-on-7s that these kids are going to at such a young age. It's time to address that position. I like their group. I like the Parker trade, but I think they still need a little bit more speed and playmaking ability and somebody that they can get in their building and develop for a couple of years.
Go ahead, Steve.
Oh, okay. I thought it was Claire's turn.
Nah.
I'm gonna let you go because me and Murph keep talking. So you go.
Go ahead.
No, honestly, it's cool. It's cool. You go, Steve.
Okay. Yeah, I'm looking at the the middle rounds like we talked about, like rounds 2, 3, 4. Is there anybody offensively other than a wide receiver that stands out? Because I know like what I'm specifically kind of angling toward James White. We really don't know if he's going to be all the way back. That was a pretty significant injury that he suffered last year. And the Patriots could use some new blood as the third down, receiving back. Is there anyone that stands out to you that might be in that realm where they could take them, say, in the middle rounds?
Yeah, it's funny you say that. You said offensively, not wide receiver. And before you even mentioned the running back, I was going to go with James Cook,
Thank
Dalvin's
you.
brother out of Georgia. I
That's
think
the
he's the
guy I
best
love.
receiving back out of in the
Three.
class. I've seen him mocked inside, as early as like 75. Do they value
Yep.
that position enough to take a player like that? I'm not sure. But you have to keep in mind too, like you said, James White ain't getting any younger. Nope. Great career. Certainly a team captain, somebody that they want in their building for the foreseeable future. But is he going to be able to handle that workload? 100+ catches. Playing on obvious passing downs like we have seen in the past. And Damian Harris too, right? I mean, they had Leonard Fournette in. Emerged as a top running back in the league, somebody that I think is worthy of a big payday, but we know Bill doesn't value that position enough, and they have Stevenson kind of behind him. They could take a running back a lot earlier than you may perceive. And I think James Cook, Dameon Pierce out of Florida, somebody like that, the kind of in-between backs that can help you in between the tackles a little bit, but primarily help you in the receiving game. Those two guys make a lot of sense for me.
Yeah, I really like Cook. I mean, he only started 6 games at Georgia, but he was very productive. He's a very good pass receiver. I think he has really good hands. He averaged 6.5 yards a carry while he was down there, and he's good at pass protection. And that's something, as we all know, the Patriots demand of their running backs before they see the field. So, I really like him. I was just curious where you thought he might go. And if he's going at 75, that might be a little too early for Bill.
Yeah, I mean, could be early 4, right? I think another guy too, Brian Robinson out of Alabama. He's a really good, one of the best pass protectors. He really flashed down and mobile in that kind of sort of those drills. So he makes a lot of sense in that fifth round range. But I think Cook obviously is more of a complete back and kind of bring you, if they're looking for their next kind of Damian Harris, two-headed monster with Stevenson, somebody like a Robinson would make sense. But it'd be interesting to see. I think you'll know a lot about Damian Harris and his future and where they see him if they take a running back earlier than maybe we had perceived.
Yeah, I agree.
Go ahead, Claire.
Oh, thank you very much. So, to that end, because I have been gifted now the next question, Ryan. I have to get my little section at least in the middle somewhere. So it's a bit of time for some tight endage. We all know that we all pretty much know really that the Patriots if they take a tight end in this draft, it's going to be very late round or it's going to be undrafted, that kind of thing. It isn't a department that they need to look at, in all fairness. But is there anyone in this draft that you have focused on or that you have seen that you like under the tight endage section?
Yeah, to be honest, I haven't studied much tight ends just because I don't think they have Smith and Henry tied.
Yeah.
But one guy that I think is kind of a tweener between a tight end and a fullback is Connor Hayward out of Michigan State. Oh, okay. He got a lot of buzz at the combine for kind of his versatility. They did mention, Daniel Jeremiah mentioned he makes a ton of sense for the Patriots because they're trying to, obviously they're trying to go away from that traditional fullback role, which is why Jakob Johnson wasn't brought back.
Right.
I think Jonnu Smith could kind of fill that role, but if they don't want to put him in kind of harm's way and in the backfield so much, somebody like a Connor Hayward would make sense. I think even as an undrafted free agent that can play kind of multiple spots. So somebody like that, a tight end fullback kind of tweener, I think Hayward makes the most sense if they were to even, address that position in the draft.
Cool. And we all know how Bill likes versatility in his players. So, yeah. Thank you very much. Murph?
What, just to stick with tight ends for half a second. Sorry, Claire, but you passed it off. What do you think of Jelani Woods?
Freak. So what's he, like 6'8"?
Yeah. Oh my God.
Moves well. He's going to make a team happy. I don't know if, like I said, I don't know if there's really a spot for him here, but that's a guy who could, turn out to be a really good player, kind of like a Darren Waller mix, but he ran extremely well. I think he's going to go a lot earlier than you think. Virginia is not known for their football. I think, people get kind of caught up in stats when evaluating the prospect. He's obviously not going to, those aren't going to pop off the page to him. But when you look at, athletic traits and kind of the tools that he has everything you need to be successful at the next level. And I think teams will see that, and he can go third, fourth round.
Yeah. 6.953 cone drill, people. 6 point, that's just Bill just got a little, little happy when he probably read that. Sorry, Claire, I just had to throw that in. Claire, again, who is your tight end binky again?
Austin Allen out of Nebraska.
There you go. Another fine prospect. Let's get realistic here. Sure. The offensive line is about as thin as Spags is. It's compared to me, that's very thin. What are the odds that Bill crushes everybody's hearts, hopes, and dreams, sticks at 21, and ends up taking an interior offensive lineman when, it really is. It's a position of need. Having somebody under contract for 5 years is just so important. And I can see him doing it. I'd be upset with the amount of talent that is going to be there at 21. But what do you think, Ryan? Is this, is this what's going to happen on Thursday night?
I don't think so, right? Like, I think the only two guys that would really make sense there are Zion Johnson and Kenyon Green, who are great players. Yep. But like you said, there's going to be a lot of talent there. There's going to be a lot of opportunity to kind of go whichever way they want. And I think what other people don't realize too is their hit rate in the later rounds, especially in the interior, has been so good for so long, right? Joe Tooney, Ted Karras, Shaq Mason, Michael Omanu, I think Tooney was a third rounder, but everybody else, right? Past the 100s, day 3 picks. Obviously they had Dante there. Dante spoke on the Athletic Show this week that, kind of threw some nuggets that he's kind of been involved in a little bit of the pre-draft process. Their eye for that position, primarily on the interior, has been really good. I mean, you'll even look at their undrafteds, right? David Andrews, they had Brian Stork late, so they can hit on those guys.
That's right. Stork was a
sixth round pick,
something like that,
somewhere around there. And then obviously he had to retire because of concussion issues, but they had Andrews right next. So I think, a guy like Dylan Parham, Cole Strange, somewhere like that, even like day 3, right?
Love Dr. Strange. Strange.
They don't have enough. Like you said, there'll be too much talent on the board to I think. But I really like Zion Johnson. I wouldn't hate the pick. I think too, kind of bumping it out to the tackles, similar to this year, you don't really have much certainty at both spots. I know Trent Brown's back on a 2-year deal that could easily get out if that kind of goes south again, and Isaiah Wynn's playing on his 5th-year option. So do they want to reset those positions and kind of have a plan for the future? That's sort of what they did with Wynn. He ended up getting hurt when they had to bounce Trent outside to left tackle. They had Cannon over there, and they kind of did the same thing with Solder too. So a lot of under the radar kind of, I think, not talked about enough is the tackle spots early on in the draft.
Yep, I agree. Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah. First of all, do you see them, adding some offensive linemen, obviously, in the draft, and then maybe picking up a veteran free agent for some depth
at tackle?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot can happen to training camp. I think they're pretty much done. Considering, and I don't know their cap space off the top of my head, but I think they have just enough to kind of sign their rookie free agents. I think what would happen is, say they bring in a tackle to kind of be that swing tackle, kind of develop them into that next future, whether it be left or right tackle, and say somebody, he outperforms Isaiah Wynn, for an example, in training camp. You could kind of see what happened with Sonny Michel this year, where, He's playing on the last year of his rookie contract. They have this guy that they feel is ready to play right away. They could potentially move him for some depth, for a pick. I think that's more likely. I'm not saying that's going to happen and that's a likely scenario, but I think that would be more likely to happen than them to bring in some kind of veteran help. But I do think that swing tackle position was a big miss for them. You had Justin Herron and Yodny Kajus got a little bit of time. Like I think they need to upgrade that swing tackle position because with the both of them, they haven't been on the field for a full season in a long time. You're as good as toast if you can't have a good swing tackle. We saw that last year in the playoff game.
And I know there's a lot of buzz around the punter from Arizona. So do you see that
round
is
5.
possible? Yeah, is that
there's no round 5?
Yeah, well, is that a possibility?
It could be. I think, right, like it's another one of those guys. Oh my God, he's such a Patriot. They'll draft him and they don't even do it. But Bailey hasn't been extended yet. I think he's coming up on the last year of his rookie deal. We kind of saw a similar situation with Ryan Allen when they drafted Bailey after his, tremendous Super Bowl.
$4 million bucks right there. $4 million bucks.
You can save some money, reset the clock. It's certainly possible. I just think it's how do they feel Jake Bailey, who is a Pro Bowler, unbelievable punter. I know he battled some knee injuries last year. People didn't think he had as good of a year as he had in the past. They want to reset the clock and feel that, Bailey's replaceable. It certainly makes sense. Other than that, they might bring in a guy as an undrafted free agent, kind of like what they did with Nordine, to kind of slip him onto the practice squad, maybe develop him and see if he can push Bailey in camp.
But I want to stick with the big fat guys because I just love them. And but how far down do you think Bill might be able to grab my offensive line binky, the Minnesota senior Daniel Fael?
Yeah, that was a guy who got a lot of buzz earlier in the Senior Bowl because of how big he weighed in at and how athletic he was.
He's a mountain, dude. He's a mountain.
That's an option on day 2, I think. Him, Max Mitchell out of Louisiana State. It's a pretty deep tackle class.
Yep.
I think it's pretty top heavy in terms of, Equanu, Neal, Charles Claros. Do they value a guy like Bernard Raymond, who was a tight end, put on a ton of weight and turned into a first-round prospect? That's somebody that, in past years that they would, typically target. That's a guy who I don't think will be there at 54, but at 21, he'll certainly be on the board. Is that somebody that they feel is worth the risk? Because I think the potential is there to be an all-pro tackle. It's just he's very raw. That would make a ton of sense. That's why I think a trade back, it makes so much sense because they have a lot of talent on the roster, but I think for the future and in terms of their depth, it would make a lot of sense to have a lot of day 2 picks where they can address wide receiver, linebacker, corner, even tackle, interior offensive line. But like you said, it's so unpredictable. Everybody thought they'd move up last year. They sat pretty. Right. They paid up to go get Barmore. So with kind of Grow in there now, I don't really know their strategy, but just from, my point of view, I think having as many day 2 picks as possible, they can really get a good bang for their buck at some key positions of the week.
I agree. Yeah. I agree. Steve, go ahead.
Claire,
go ahead.
Okay. Pass the puzzle. Spags, it's not exactly draft related, but it may have an impact on the draft selection. So as the Patriots have taken recently up with Malcolm Butler, what's your opinion kind of on this? What do you think about them bringing him back? How do you see that?
I like it. I think it's definitely a position that they need to improve on, but I think they might be thinking differently. Like I said, everybody is so used to having a number 1 corner out there since really Aqib Talib was here, right? You went from Talib to Revis, Browner, Butler when he was kind of in his prime, Gilmore, Jackson, right? So are they changing where they just kind of want some guys that they can plug in and they know can hold their own out there with some safety help and play really, athletic and fast kind of in the middle of the field? But I think, that's an option that they could certainly go to.
Do you think that he's been brought back as more sort of not as CB1 as the fact that they're looking to draft a top cornerback, and they want that stability there, that veteranness there, that guy there that's seen the playbook, that kind of thing. And although it's not really going to reflect of what they're doing in the draft, he's that kind of
a mentor.
Yeah.
Yeah, a Butler, you're saying?
Yes. Sorry. Yes.
Yeah, I think it's somebody that's familiar with their system, right? That they can kind of come in and they know exactly what they're going to get. I like the Terrence Mitchell pickup. That wasn't talked about a lot. It's kind of more of a zone corner, which I thought was more of a key that they'll play more zone than man than we've used to seeing. But like I said, that's a guy that they can kind of bring back. What you've seen with a lot of their veterans that come back here, that hey, we'll put them out there. We know what we're going to get. We know they're going to work hard and play hard. But I do think they'll definitely address this position, whether it be early in the draft as an undrafted. They've hit on certainly a lot of those guys. But I think for corners, if they're going to take a really good one, it's got to be at 21, because I think there's a big difference between kind of those top 6, 7 guys to when you kind of get deeper in the draft as opposed to different years.
Looking at the draft this year, Spags, it's like there's so many teams that have multiple picks in the first round. Does that tell you there's going to be a heck of a lot of movement around with people trading back and forward in round 1 on Thursday night?
Makes a lot of sense, right? Like, I think Kansas City is certainly looking for kind of a Tyreek Hill mold if they can move up with those 2 picks that they have now. Green Bay has 2 picks. There'll be some teams that are kind of behind them that are going to look for wide receivers that can move up. Some sneaky teams that might be in the quarterback market, right? Like Tennessee, who's behind them. Who else?
New Orleans.
Saints. They're in front of them. Pittsburgh, teams like that could, certainly pay a lot to move up and go get a guy if they feel that they're kind of a franchise-worthy pick. I just don't know if there's a really good class next year. I know it's early for quarterbacks. You have Stroud and Bryce Young coming out. Our team's really going to want to mortgage a lot of their picks this year to draft some of these guys where I'm not really sure if there's even a franchise quarterback in this class.
Right.
But teams are desperate for quarterbacks, and they love the 5th-year option, getting them in their building. I think the good thing for the Patriots in terms of teams drafting quarterbacks, a lot of these teams that need quarterbacks have guys in place that they feel like, hey, we can develop them for a year. But like I said earlier, if quarterbacks start going early and teams start trading up, it's just music to the Patriots' ears, because you're going to see some really good talent fall to them, and maybe allow them, like last year, stick at their pick and get a really good player. I had thought Mac Jones was a top 10 pick last year, sat at 15 because there was some movement up there. And teams started drafting guys, and they got a really good player. So I would hope for a lot of quarterbacks, a lot of wide receivers even to move. You might get a really good defensive player available at 21.
We've had a question from a viewer, Bob. Will they draft a linebacker
That's Bob,
on
the
day
stats
1?
man.
Yeah.
That's our
Like
our
I said
buddy
earlier,
who
I don't think there's
he wrote
much
that
value
Patriot.
other than Dean or Devin Lloyd there. And those are 2 guys, like I said, if quarterbacks were to go early, guys like that are going to fall. But other than that, I really like the day 2 guys. You could see even a guy like Christian Harris, someone like that, kind of jump up into the first round, the late rounds. You saw that last year with the kid from Kentucky. He went a lot earlier than people thought. So I don't think so, unless, like I said, a Lloyd or Dean were to fall. I think there's a big difference in terms of the depth at linebacker. It's not top heavy. It's really, kind of really good from 40s to 150. You can get a really good player there.
What do you think of Chad Muma, Brian?
Like him a lot. I think that's another fit. Me and Keegan have him as our linebacker 7 or 6. I think that's a guy that makes a lot of sense for them. 6'3", 240, big, physical, can move a little bit, can play in between the tackles. Like I said, kind of that mix of, hey, this is a guy we would normally target to be kind of that run stuffing kind of thumper, but can also play in space and be good in coverage. That's a guy that makes a lot of sense. And I know he met with them twice at the combine and as a pre-draft visit.
Do you think there's a chance he's dropped to the second round then? Do you think there is a chance that they can pick him up in the second?
Yeah, that's a guy, like I said, Christian Harris, Darian Beavers, Brandon Smith. That's kind of that mold that you'll see these guys kind of go between the 40s and 80s. So that he won't last till the end of day 2. He won't get to day 3, but that's an option on day 2 for sure.
I like this. So now I'm going to keep my hopes up now, because he's definitely one of the linebackers that I really liked.
Yeah.
I was worried that he was a bit rich for them, but if there's a chance that you think he's going to be second
54
rounder,
would make a ton of sense for him.
Yeah.
I think that's right around where he'd go.
It would.
Oh, I'm getting really excited now. That's got me really excited. Thanks, Max.
Yeah, looking at last year's draft and this year's draft, it's a really different animal, folks. In being able to pick in the early 20s and the top 40 or 50 picks, as opposed to in years past where they're picking 30, 31st, 32nd every single year. So it makes it a lot more fun. And I'm going to make things really fun right now. Spags, who do you see on the defensive line that could come in here and fit and be that Vince Wilfork type that we really, really need?
Jordan Davis would be a pipe dream. I mean, you saw his testing.
Wow,
That's a player too, right? That I don't see how he gets out of the top 12, but if quarterbacks go and wide receivers start jumping off the board like Williams and Wilson and Olave go earlier, that's a guy that could, maybe fall to them. But other than him, I like DeMarvin Leal out of Texas A&M, another Georgia guy, Devontae Wyatt, Perrion Winfrey, 6'5", 303 at a really good Senior Bowl, even a Travis Jones out of UConn. So there is some D-line help, and I think getting one of those guys in at some point would be good to kind of help with Barmore. I think, guys certainly on the back nine of his career. I don't know how much they value Godshaw. I know he had kind of some ups and downs last year, but pairing somebody in the interior with Christian Barmore with his pass rushing ability for the next 4 or 5 years would really make the middle of that defense super, super explosive and a real anchor of their team.
Yeah, everybody keeps bringing up Travis Jones and thinking that I'm going to do cartwheels because I'm a UConn guy. I am not doing cartwheels over Travis Jones. I'm really not. Does the level of competition that he faced at UConn worry you at all at the next level?
I haven't dove too much into him, but, typically with those D linemen, right? I mean, it's not to speak, I obviously you rather see a guy from the SEC like an Alabama, Texas A&M, but that's another position that they've really turned out some really good players from some right, like Trey Flowers came. I know he was an edge guy.
Yeah,
Barmore, they got Lawrence Guy in here. Wilfork. I know those are early round picks, and certainly Flowers was on day 3, I believe, but they seem to develop that position well. I don't know if it's kind of their scheme and their structure, but I'd feel confident if they were to draft a D lineman relatively early that they have all the the intangibles that they look for, because like I said, they've hit on that position more than they've missed.
All right, I was trying to give you a yes or no answer to get you the hell out of here because we are at time for you. But I want to thank you so much for making the time to be here today. Like I said, you never say no when I give a phone call. Have a fantastic day. Have a fantastic draft. Let everybody know before you split where they can read you, where they can find you, and what they're doing on draft night, because I had a blast watching you guys last year on draft night.
Yeah, I go I go on kind of here and there. I do a little draft thing with some of my buddies here, but Ryan_Spags on Twitter. I'm on Pat's Pulpit. I got my final mock draft coming out Thursday. But like I said, I really appreciate you 3 having me on. It's always a pleasure. Whenever you need me, I'm always here. So
you're the best, bud. You're the best. Have a great day and enjoy the draft.
Take care, you 3. Thank you.
Thanks a lot,
Ryan. Oh, and now you folks are stuck with us for the next 20 minutes or so. That was great. Spags is always fantastic. Folks, if you're looking for a draft guide, head on over to his Twitter page, and he has pinned up there a spreadsheet that he's done with Keegan. And it's just a fantastic reference. It really is. If you're looking on draft night to get the lowdown on whoever was just picked they have it for you. It's really good. Another person, Evan Lazar, has one out. You can find some really good insight there from Easy. Easy is always fantastic. And
Evan's draft guide is really good.
Yeah, it really is, man. He dives so deep, it's unbelievable. If you come up from the bottom where Easy dives too quickly, you could end up with the bends. That's how deep he goes.
He's super smart. Evan is super smart. Yeah.
But it is. It's scary. It's scary. You know how smart he is, and chicks dig that. And it they like the smart guys. That was a lot of fun, man. It's it's too bad he had to leave when he was. Yeah. But just going back, I really think that what Bill is going to end up doing is end up trading back this week and getting some depth there at the offensive line. I just think like Spags was saying and Steve was saying that come draft night, the desperate get really desperate and they start trading up for those quarterbacks. And this is not the year to do it. This just really is not the year to do it. And there's going to be some serious talent left on the board. And I'm going to be a little pissed off because I think that there's talent in the third and the fourth round on the offensive line. And I could just see Bill grabbing that BC kid and just saying, yeah. What do you guys think?
I'm not so sure. I mean, it's all going to depend on how the board plays out, obviously. But like Ryan said, and I've been praying for this, that you start seeing those quarterbacks going off the board in the top 20, because that would be wonderful for the Patriots, because that means, there's going to be a lot of guys that are going to be still on the board at that time. So, I mean, I think that is that's a scenario they would love to see play out.
The thing is,
I can definitely see them sliding back. Like, we talked about Kansas City at 29. The Chiefs want to move up for a wide receiver. If one of them is still available at around 20, I could see them moving up into the Patriots slot and then picking up an extra second rounder. I think that's a great move for the Patriots. So.
It's just, there are so many teams. There are 8 teams that control half of the first round with multiple picks.
Yeah.
And that scares the hell out of me. Do either of you feel that Bill is going to be watching what the Jets do and what the Bills do, and say, I've got to combat that right away to keep my young quarterback healthy?
Well, I mean, that's always a consideration, and the one thing we didn't ask, I kept looking at my watch because I wanted to ask Ryan, the one position we didn't touch upon was edge rusher.
Right.
And, they have Matthew Judon, but really they still don't really know what they have in Josh Uche, Ronnie Perkins. So, I think, you have to put edge rusher in the mix. If there's one of those edge rushers that's available to them,
Jermaine
Johnson, would they take a guy like this in the first or second round? I think it's a legitimate question and a legitimate need.
If they're taking a top guy, I like that Kalaftis out of Purdue, the Greek guy. He looks really good.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
He's projected like really high, so it's probably a moot point. But if you're talking top edge guys, he's definitely one who's on my list. Definitely.
I agree. Him, Jermaine Johnson, the Georgia transfer that went over to Florida State.
Oh yeah.
Claire mentioned Boy Mafe. That earlier in the show, that was a great throw out there by her. See, I can be nice.
Who are you talking about? I'm trying to remember. You're making me frown now. Who?
Boy Mafe out of Minnesota.
Oh.
6'4", 261.
I didn't say that. That was Spags.
Oh, was it?
No, you said
no,
it.
You said it. You said it.
I didn't. I
you
don't
did.
know him.
We're both saying we're both saying that you did. All right.
He's not on my radar. I have never said his name. I promise you.
Go
I
back and
promise you,
listen to the show, and
he's
then
not the guy who I mentioned.
and then send me
He's
a
not the
Hershey
guy
bar
who mentioned.
because
He's not the guy. He's not the guy who I mentioned. The only guy I mentioned was a linebacker, and that was Muma. I haven't mentioned Mafe because I don't really know about him. Genuinely. So you may have misheard me then.
I may have
or it was Spags.
Yes.
But that wasn't me.
Okay.
Take the credit, Claire.
yeah,
I'm being told to take the credit.
Claire.
I do think edge rusher is a need this year.
Yep. You know, it's Sarah down here. I've got to get Sarah in here. Who agrees that they do love the smart guys.
Oh, I know. I already put that one up.
Oh, did you? Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't see that because I'm not one of the
Sarah
smart guys.
Thumbs up. Yeah. Don't worry about it, Murphy. It's okay. It's not for you, Murphy. It's not for you. Don't worry. I want to ask you guys, can I ask you guys about a linebacker who's a lower round person who I was very interested in and see your opinion would be very interesting. Malcolm Rodriguez from Oklahoma State.
I don't know anything about him.
Yeah.
Why? See, I love it. Oh, look at me. I know so much. No.
Tell us why you love him.
I don't love him. That's extreme. He's just one of the guys on my list as a later round, as a lower round, as a later round.
Did he play tight end in Pop Warner football? Because I don't know this.
No. He's a wrestler. He's a bit undersized, 5'11", but he's a wrestler said to have a really good football IQ. So he's very, very strong. And I wrote an article about him. See, if you read my work, you would know and you would have heard about him. Because he's who I mentioned in my pre-draft stuff.
I saw that, but I don't know really anything about him.
This is why, folks, I drink in the morning. Okay?
Because you have to do a show with me.
Because I do a show with Claire every week, and she's constantly doing this. Mwah. No, I don't know him. Somebody in the later rounds that I would like is DeMarco Jackson out of Appalachian State. The kid is just an amazing athlete. He does need to get a little bit stronger. Gets caught trying to do too much at the next level. I don't think that would be an issue. But I think he's somebody in the later rounds at this position that would be really good. Another guy that I really like and is the Wisconsin senior Jack Sanborn. 6'2", 234. He's a physical downhill kind of guy who is going to really stuff the run. And as we all know, that's been an issue here. That's been a real issue here over the past 2 years, and I'm sick of it. That's why, personally, I would, if they don't go playmaking linebacker at 22, which is something that I would
21.
really 21. I'm sorry. If I don't get Nakobe Dean, I would really like to see them go defensive line early. If for some reason Jordan Davis or Devonta Wyatt fall down, if you all could help me with a good rumor about them, I would really appreciate that. Spreading it around that they were caught smoking the marijuana or something. That doesn't work anymore. But anything else, he didn't help an old lady cross the street somewhere, so he's a bad person. And get them down.
He didn't play tight end, so he's no good.
Yeah, he doesn't play tight end, so he's no good. he never played tight end. But
what I love is Steve's face. This is what I love. Is this? Yeah. I have a serious question. There's nothing to do with tight ends, guys. So genuinely, then, 21st pick. There's so much between people wanting a wide receiver or a cornerback or the need for offensive linemen.
Nope.
What's your want at 21? Not moving around or whatever. What is your realistic? Because it's all very well saying you want whoever's going to go at 5 and stuff like this, but realistically, guys, who is your number 21 want for the Patriots? Murph.
For me, we all know it's Nakobe Dean.
Okay,
I want
Steve?
Nakobe Dean. Okay, shut up. Shut up. Thank you, Murph. Shut up.
Thank you. Well,
if they're going to pick at 21,
yeah,
I'd really like, and it's not a sexy pick, but Devontae Wyatt. Because we talked. Murph just mentioned stopping the run.
Yep.
It's been an issue for them, and I think if you're going to go to these younger, more athletic, smaller linebackers. You need big bodies up there that, slow everything up to allow your linebackers to fly up and make plays.
I just don't. I'd love it. I just don't think he's going to be there, Steve.
Yeah, I mean that's the issue. I started to mention the Spags because I saw a report yesterday that the Jaguars are considering taking him with the number
one pick.
And I was like, wow. I mean, if that happened, that would be a shocker, I think. So
everybody's got the what's the name guy?
Hutchinson and Thibodeau going 1 and 2, or 2 and 1, however you want to do it. But I mean, most people have those guys.
Yeah, I think that's Shad Khan talking out of his ass. He watched the combine and saw the numbers that got put up, and I love him. I would do backflips and cartwheels and everything else at 21. There's no way on God's green earth that I'm picking him number 1 overall. No way.
It's so
that would be a shocker, but we've seen crazy things before, so
that's it.
We've been messed with here.
But if he was there at 21, I would really love Wyatt because I think that's something they lacked last year was that we definitely saw it. At the end of the season where they were just getting gashed with the run, and because the defensive linemen were getting cleared out, and you have those guards getting to the second level, and the running back is flying through the hole untouched, and that's just disaster waiting to happen.
Yep, it is.
What do you definitely seriously not want, but the obviously that there's a chance might happen? Obviously it's all very well saying, oh well, I don't want a quarterback, but the chances of them taking a quarterback in the first round is going to be ridiculous. So
I don't want to see quarterback, tight end, or running back.
Okay, fair enough. That's fine. I don't want to see a tight end in the first round either, in all fairness, because I want what's best for the team. As much as it would kind of make me happy to have a first round tight end, I'd be quite excited for like 10 seconds. I'd be like, oh my God, we got a tight end. And then I'd be like, oh no, but that means we didn't get like Penning or a cornerback, or then I'd just lose it all completely. So yeah.
The guy Spags mentioned, Dax Hill. I mean, if they draft him first, like especially if they slide back to like 29, I mean, then the Patriots are going to have like 8 safeties on the roster.
Oh man!
A team full of safeties and an offense full of tight ends.
I mean, they already have a slew of them. So
yeah. Who just asked about Vonta Mack? Who
Lee
was
Nunes.
that? Was that Lee? Lee, you're a prick. Lee, you miserable prick.
Dude, that's harsh.
Vonta Mack isn't a real person.
I know, he's from Draft Day, the movie.
Okay.
Excuse me. I do know. I may be a bit of a dumb blonde, but I do know something.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I didn't know that you had seen that movie and when called it harsh. It's okay. I know Lee. I tell him
it's just Miller.
I tell him he's a prick all the time. But no, I agree a lot with Steve that getting that guy in that is going to disrupt the run game, that is going to take up a lot of space on the time and effort of the offense, the opposing offensive line. I would lose my mind if one of those guys fell. Perrion Winfrey, another guy that I really like, even though he only weighs 300 pounds. My left leg weighs more than this kid, but you get him in here, you get him on a diet plan, you bulk him up and see what happens. I also like that pick outside of the first round. And but other than that, and we need a punter. We need that punter. We need the guy to save $4 million. And
oh, come on, it's not your money. Why are you so obsessed with this $4 million for Jake Bailey? It's not going in your pocket, is it? I mean, come on, what's with the Jake Bailey?
It's money that could be spent elsewhere. I don't
like they do.
Rejiggle it. Getting a little jiggle with it. You know,
they can redo his contract so it reduces. I like Jake Bailey. Stop
I
championing
like
to get rid of Bailey.
Bailey. You know, it's the first
I
Irish.
remember when he
like,
was a rookie, Mike Diabate, and I
Yeah.
was down at training camp watching him, put punts up into the flight path at Logan. So, I mean, he was hurt last year.
Mhm.
So I'm not holding that against him. We saw that last year, especially with
Murphy's.
the kickoffs.
What?
But at the same time, when you look at the Patriots' track record, when guys get in that final season, especially punters of their rookie deal, that's when Bill tends to move away from him. He did it with Zoltan Mesko, with Ryan Allen. Then he did it with Ryan Allen. So, I mean, it's not out of the realm of possibility. And it would all depend if they can pick up this kid in the draft.
Right.
So.
Super Bowl MVP, Ryan Allen, by the way. Yes. That he was the most important player in that goddamn Super Bowl, people. Don't ever forget it. Go ahead.
Do you reckon then the only reason to kind of replace Bailey is with that Matt Ariza? If they weren't to get him, are you still happy to move on? Because seriously, he's super talented, and if you haven't, I can't see anybody else that could replace Bailey.
Well,
in all fairness,
it's even if they pick up this kid from Arizona State, I mean,
yeah, that's it.
It's still going to be a competition at training camp. That's the way I see it. They're not just going to, cut Bailey loose. I think it'll be a competition,
right?
And then they'll see where the chips fall. So,
I really don't. Claire kind of put me on the spot there. I have not been scouting punters, deeply here.
Why ever not?
I don't know. I really don't know. There is a kicker.
I'm still
that
mad
I like.
they didn't take Rodrigo Blankenship as a
kicker. Yeah. Oh, there you go. There you go. Who doesn't love a little Rodrigo Blankenship?
But before we go, I want to ask you two a question.
Oh, okay.
Did you guys watch the last couple of nights of The Man in the Arena that was on ESPN and ESPN2?
No, I have no interest in it.
I have no access to it.
Why? Am I mentioned?
No, Tom didn't mention you by name.
By name, okay.
Did he just say the jackass from One Patriots Place?
Ow.
No, he was just talking about it. There were some really great tidbits in there obviously from Tom, but inside the show, I mean, like they go through each Super Bowl, so they have different people on there. I thought the one with the Seahawks Super Bowl, they had Richard Sherman on there, and he had some awesome stuff that he was, telling from his perspective about coming into the game, what was transpiring during the game, and his view on things, which is great. Vince Wilfork, Wes Walker, Julian Edelman. I mean, Vrabel was in there because they were talking about the early Super Bowls, and I mean, it was fantastic. And Brady was he had some great candor in there about how he felt about a lot of things. I thought it was really, really good.
All right, just one political question. We're getting into politics here. Who did you guys vote for the Patriots Hall of Fame?
I did not vote.
You did not vote.
But if I was to vote for the three finalists, it'd be Big Vince.
Yep. That's the way
I didn't vote because I haven't seen any of them play, so I didn't feel like I was justifiable. Okay. I hadn't seen their era, so it didn't seem fair that I would, because I choose the one that I kind of knew of. So, and that didn't seem fair. So I didn't vote because it's kind of not my era as such.
Both of your podcast husbands have freaking voted for Big Vince, and we think you should go and vote for him too. And all of you out there in the listening audience.
I still believe that Chuck Fairbanks needs to get in before Parcells.
That will be in Steve's freaking wrap up every week until the day he dies.
Yeah, and so does Russ Francis.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Russ
Right.
Francis was Gronk before Gronk.
That's it.
Well,
All
we've
right.
got Lee's voted for Big Vince. Sorry, Murph. Lee's voted
Good
for
man.
Vince. We've
Good
got
man.
Joel. Hey Joel, he's voted for Vince as well.
Good job.
And I think this means
Well done.
that Bob has voted for him as well. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm assuming that's even is affectionately referring to him as Butt Fumble Vince. But
Way to
it sounds
go,
like
Bob.
he's voted for him too.
All
So
right.
there you go, there you go.
I was chatting with Bob online the other day because the Patriots lost one of their alumni. He died in a car accident. Clayton Weishuhn was one of my favorite players in the early 80s, an absolute tackling machine that they picked up. He only lasted a couple of years because of injuries, but he tragically died in a car wreck the other day. I was talking with Bob about him. Was a great linebacker, and I had lunch with Steve Nelson one time, and we were talking about him. Had some really cool stories about him. So, rest in peace for that, and our thoughts go out to the Weishuhn family.
Yeah, completely. I don't know if that means Murph has now left the building. If he's still in the
Murph
building,
has left the building.
Yeah, it does look like it. So okay,
I guess it's time.
No,
There he
there.
is.
No, I'm back.
He's still there.
I'm back. A little bit of a
as
issue.
Bob called him, the happy warrior of the NFL. Speaking of Clayton Weishuhn.
Ooh,
Yeah.
Ooh, I like that name.
Yeah,
I like that name. All right, Claire. Yeah, we're into overtime right now. So why don't you do your thing that you do so well?
And do my thing and say bye to everybody. So we go bye, everybody.
Bye,
well,
everybody.
thank you for listening and watching. This has been One Patriots Place Live. He has been Steve Balistreri. He has been Thomas Murphy, and I have been Claire Cooper. Great thanks to Ryan Spagnoli of Pat's Pulpit for his time and his insight. So tune in next week, folks, and go Pats.
Download.